Hello, and welcome to another episode of Now Who Would Have Thought? Today I'm going to take you back in time, back to a time in American history that few would ever remember, and even fewer have ever read in a history book. It is the summer of 1793. It is the driest and hottest that folks in Philadelphia ever remember. Streams are stagnant pools. Flies and mosquitoes swarm, and the dirty river stinks unbearably. The hush of houses where children are sick fills the foul streets with a torrent of silence. On August 19th, a doctor diagnosed it as bilious-remittent yellow fever. This is only the beginning. Before it is over, the city of Philadelphia will endure an agony unlike any that has ever befallen an American city, before or since. For 100 days and nights, 55,000 citizens cringed behind drawn curtains, weeping and praying, and not daring to venture out. Our greatest seaport is paralyzed, as is our government. For in 1793, Philadelphia is the capital of the United States. This is not the first siege of yellow fever for Philadelphia. Every 70 years the plague returns, each time more dreadful than the last. Where other sieges of the disease had killed maybe 5 people a day, this time people are dying at a rate of 17 per day, then 20, then 40. 3 out of every 4 afflicted are dying, usually within a week. The manner of their passing? Well, that is far too hideous to describe. The stench of the sick room is overpowering. Nobody knows what is causing the fever, but everybody believes it to be contagious. The preventatives that they are trying are ludicrous and pathetic. Some are drinking molasses. Others eat garlic. An almanac recommends rue, wormwood, lavender, and camphor to be rubbed on the temples and loins. People are building giant bonfires to purify the atmosphere. More die. Outside of town at Gray's Ferry, Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson lives. Everyone who could was fleeing the town. Jefferson wrote to James Madison that he fears panic will add famine to the disease. Even more die. The College of Physicians thinks explosions might drive away the plague. So the governor orders cannons discharged in the city streets all day. Others carry muskets, firing them at intervals. Anybody wearing a mourning band is avoided. Handshaking is now abandoned. Nothing does any good. The air hums with mosquitoes, but we don't know anything about mosquitoes. For this is 100 years before Dr. Walter Reed and his victory. So the mosquitoes go unmolested while more breed in the stagnant pools, and men fire cannons, and of course, more die. September 14th, 48 die. September 16th, 67 more. September 17th, 81. Now, there is no time for funerals anymore. September 24th, 96 more. Doctors, standing midway between medieval and modern medicine, have more courage than knowledge. Finally, in despair, they turn to purges and tonics and bloodletting, which are at best worthless and at worst fatal. October 11th, in one day, 119 people die. This is a town of 55,000 people. Imagine Kalamazoo losing 100 lives per day. Gravediggers are now working around the clock. Mourners don't dare come near. Wives flee from husbands. Parents flee from children. Children flee from parents. A man named Collins buried his wife, 2 daughters, a son, and his son's wife and child. Then he remarried again, and ultimately buried his new wife. Shortly thereafter, he died himself. An exciting Southern belle named Dolly Payne watched her father-in-law die, then her mother, then her husband died in her arms. Dolly almost died, but she lived, and married again a year later, and is best known historically as Dolly Madison. Ships lay at the docks, completely unloaded. All the schools are closed. Nobody is available to clean the filthy streets. By mid-September, there is no food. People are starving. There is no mail delivery. And, of course, more die. Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury, is stricken. The federal government evaporates. Clerks refuse to remain at their desks. The new federal city on the Potomac is being built. The Washington family remains in Virginia, away from the yellow fever, and the president has no one to advise him. In September, more than 1,400 Philadelphians die. And then, autumn. The frost comes, the mosquitoes die, and the plague begins to taper off. Not all at once, but gradually the death rate goes down. Only thing is, nobody's bothering to keep count anymore. For a long while, nobody realized the disease was diminishing. In mid-October, 80 died in one day. By the end of the month, only 24 more. But the city refuses to return to life. Citizens have seen their loved ones perish in such numbers that the kindness of nature has dulled their senses to the cruel pain, leaving them too numbered to pick up their own lives again. Traffic remains paralyzed, houses shuttered, the waterfront deathly still. It would take a shock, some startling thing, to jolt the city awake again. If only the government would return, reopen for business, instill some confidence in the people. The scattered government is now mostly at Germantown, planning for Congress to meet there. This leaves the stricken city of Philadelphia barely alive, abandoned for dead. Even when there is no new victims for days, behind the shuttered windows and barred doors, men of imagined sickness lay on the floor and measure themselves for their coffins. Starvation increased, and so others died, until one man, realizing the need, took it upon himself to revive the city. So on the morning of November 11th, a distant clatter of a horse's hoofs is heard on the silent stone streets of Philadelphia. Cowering fugitives from fear peered from behind their drawn shade, or opened the door just a crack to see. Down there at the end of the street, a tall man, on a great white horse. He is riding alone down the street, bowing slightly toward any sign of life he sees in the houses he passes. And suddenly there is a stirring and a babble of voices, and then from somewhere a shout goes out. Windows are thrown up and shutters are banged open. From outside the town, behind the lone horseman, refugees are returning on foot. The gaunt gray or yellowed faces of those who stayed behind come awake again. A whole city revived, returning to life. Behind the example of the tall man with the ruddy face and the fringe of once red hair, it is he they had followed before, and would once more. Moving alone through the street of silent death is George Washington. He alone, with the daunting task, decided to bring Philadelphia back to life again. Now who would have thought? This is Chris McCrae. Take care of yourself and the ones you love most.